So welcome to another edition of the Cooperatives in a Time of Crisis conversation series. And I'm very, very pleased to have Evan Toews from the Winkler Co-op in Manitoba here with me today. This is our first interview with a general manager from retail co-op in the CRS. Evan, welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So I'm wondering if you could give me a little bit of background on yourself, how long you've been at the Winkler Co-op, and a little bit of background on the co-op itself, the community it serves, the number of members you have, how long it's been around, and anything else you want to tell us about your co-op.
Great. So again, my name is Evan Toews, and I am the general manager of Winkler Consumers Co-op. I have been with Winkler Co-op for just shy of 20 years now. Kind of started by accident as somebody who needed a job to get out of their present job and work through many of the different areas that we have. And up till now, I guess I've been the general manager for 3 years now, 3 years going on 4. So yeah, born and raised in southern Manitoba. Our co-op serves the central part of southern Manitoba. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Winkler and the Morden, Low Farm, Plum Coulee area. That is primarily where our members come from, of which we have approximately 18,000 of them to date. And yeah, we sell anything from farm petroleum, farm chemicals to retail food store, card lock systems, gas bars in all the communities, as well as family fashions and a store we call Co-op at Home, which has computers and furniture and all of those kind of things that are available to members and other customers alike.
So that's actually quite complex. It's very, in some ways, old school co-op, where you sell everything to everybody in the communities you serve.
Yeah, you're right. Some of the things that typical co-ops often have is building and hardware, as well as pharmacy, and those we don't currently have. Years ago, like many businesses and many co-ops in the 80s, Winkler Co-op went through some really hard times, and through that we did lose our lumber yards. So we used to be in that business and haven't re-entered ever since that time. But thankfully things have turned around and we're quite successful today, thanks to our members.
So just to give some idea of the context that the co-op and all of the things that you do, the context that it operates in, what is the competition that you have out there? Are there big box groceries in the communities you serve? Are there other, what's the nature of your competition?
Yeah, so the Winkler and Morden area has definitely grown over the last, let's say 20, 30 years. It started off as a small town, became a city, and of course with that growing, a lot of that growth has come through people moving into the area from other countries. So immigration's been quite big, and that obviously attracts a lot of the big box stores. So we have Walmart, we have Superstore, Shoppers Drug Mart, Canadian Tire. We have a complexity. We're not the only choice in town, like some of the smaller towns where co-op typically started. So you're absolutely right. It's a little different nowadays than what it was when it first started, but we've been able to change with the times and survive, and not only survive but thrive with the competition that's moved into the communities.
That's great. So just another quick question about your membership before we move on to how you're dealing with the pandemic. But has your membership evolved too? I imagine you still have a lot of long-time loyal co-op members, but with the immigrants that have come in and the people that have come to the area from elsewhere in Canada, have they become co-op members as well? And have you had to change some of what you do to meet their needs?
Yeah, good question. We definitely have had to change some things. Some of the things are at the core of who we are, and a lot of it will also depend on where they do come from as far as the immigrants. Many of them come from places where they already are used to valuing the cooperative movement as such. So they're very receptive and they want to be a part of the community, and they enjoy supporting a cooperative that supports their community in return. So yeah, we have had to make some changes, but all in all, our membership continues to grow every month, which is encouraging. And through this pandemic, things have changed definitely, but we made some decisions really, really early on to protect our staff, protect our membership, etc. That we gained a lot of respect, I believe, and from what I've been told, we did gain some loyalty and some respect for the things that we did put in place that were over and above what the federal or the provincial government put in place for us.
So tell me about those first few days or first few weeks of the pandemic. What was it like for you, and what did you have to deal with?
The first few days, yeah, it's almost like everything went numb and you can hardly remember them. But looking back, it was really interesting for somebody in a leadership role. It was actually invigorating to go through that and to I guess to orchestrate how these changes are going to take place and how it's going to affect people. And we definitely took a look as a small team that we assembled as a COVID team within our organization, that we looked at how it was going to affect people, but not only how it was going to affect people if we did this, but more importantly, how it was going to affect people if we did not do this. So we definitely took implemented some changes early on, and we were rewarded for it. Even as early as putting plexiglass on some of the cashiers, we had some comments like, "Oh, are we sure we're ready for this? You know, it's not mandatory." And yet we did it overnight, and the next morning we had a lot of employees come to us and just say, "Thank you so much. I feel so much safer." And that was just validation that that was the correct thing to do. So there was many different opportunities, many different decisions that had to be made, and we did make them. And again, over and above what many others did. And I believe that we created a pretty safe place to shop and to work.
Mm-hmm. So you had to deal with, first of all, the safety of your staff and their health concerns. Did you have to deal with changes in their lives, you know, with the cancellation of schools and daycares and things like that as well? How did you manage all that? Just thinking about your staff overall first.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we have a lot of family members, young family members that are working with us of all ages. So there's people that were affected by the closure of schools, people that were affected by closure of daycares, which is something, looking back now, it's kind of amazing how we navigated through that. But we did have some people working from home, but as you can imagine, in the retail environment, that's not possible for the vast majority of our staff. We did have some flexible time that people could use. We certainly had in southern Manitoba, it gets pretty frigid in late winter, early spring when this happened, and we had many individuals that were on holidays or visiting family elsewhere. And when they returned, it was difficult to tell them, if you came back on Friday, you don't have to self-isolate, but you came back on Sunday, so you do. And we navigated through that, worked through the different programs that we have available, and we're able to keep people at home that needed to be at home and keep our stores open at the same time.
So what have you had many cases of COVID in your region?
In our region,
Manitoba seems to have been less hard hit than a lot of other places.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So they don't necessarily tell us how many are in our immediate area, but to my knowledge, and that would just be hearsay, it hasn't been hugely affected. But yeah, there's been a lot of precautions and a lot of people that are taking precautions under their own advisement and the advisement of the governments to look after themselves.
And then what did you see in terms of your customer and members' concerns and their shopping habits and their demand, consumer demand? What kinds of changes did you see there and have to deal with immediately, and then maybe over the longer term as well?
Yeah, so many of the things that we thought we'd only ever see on TV from other areas, empty shelves and lineups to the back of the store and winding around the store and the hoarding, etc., that was going on in the panic buying. We didn't think we'd ever see that in small town rural Manitoba, but we certainly did, and it was overnight, like the switch went off just like everywhere else, and the panic was on. So we managed through that, but I would like to, give a shout out. The relationship that we have with our community actually brought the community back to us, and we had hundreds of members asking, what can we do to help? We see there's a lot of people that need help. What can we do? Can we stock your shelves? Can we? And at times, we definitely utilize that because we couldn't hire people fast enough. So there was a lot of people that offered their services, and we could tap into that before we could hire, and we tried to hire many of those as well. So it was a great reaction, and I guess the relationship reciprocated at that point in time, where they could help us help others who really need it. So throughout the whole time, yeah, the panic buying started. It did slow down, but there's many items that maybe we would have never thought would be on a panic buyer's list that we're still out of some of them today. It's kind of amazing how that's worked through the supply chain. Although they've done really well, and from supply all the way through logistics, and the warehousing has done really well, but certainly a lot of instances couldn't be foreseen.
So you must have been involved in a lot of meetings at that time, not only with your own staff, but also with folks at FCL I'm thinking of your supply chain and trying to figure out how to manage that. What was that like?
Yeah, well, that definitely added to the chaos, but it also helped us navigate the chaos. So you're absolutely right. We did have a lot of meetings in-house. There was a lot of things that nobody would have, like I mentioned, that nobody would have ever thought that we'd have to go through. So there was a lot of meetings, and of course those meetings quickly turned to electronic meetings. And with Federated Co-op, or FCL, they definitely put together a pandemic team, and we could work through them. We could bounce questions off of them, and had hotlines, and there was a lot of information coming from all kinds of places. It was really good to have Federated in our corner, that they would sift through some of that and really push down the stuff that was pertinent to us, instead of us having to comb through everything that was coming from 11 different angles and trying to find out what is actually applicable to us.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get back to your members offering to volunteer their services for your store. So I've got so many questions around that, because that's a really remarkable story. Were they compensating for staff that you couldn't bring back to work, or who couldn't work because of family issues? Or was it also that you had more work to do because things were flying off the shelf so quickly? Was it all of that?
It was a combination of that. Yeah, we weren't short that much on workers. If the demand hadn't increased, to the point that it did, we would have been able to manage through. However, with the spikes in sales, etc., it was astronomical. So they definitely recognized that, and partially because maybe they were in the store looking for stuff that they couldn't get, and we were trying to order it, and it was trying to stock it on the shelves. We had many up to 30, 40 people early morning before the store opened to put groceries on the shelves, etc. And we fielded calls for weeks after to see if people would possibly be able to volunteer. I should say, I want to be clear, we didn't accept volunteers instead of paid employees. Many of these didn't want jobs because perhaps they were covered by CERB, or they were just taking some holidays, or they were on a temporary layoff or holidays, etc., from their current job. So we hired as many as we could, as quick as we could as well, but the community definitely stepped up and helped us through this in a big way. And I should mention too, we talked a little bit about the diversification of Winkler Co-op. We were fortunate enough that we were able to utilize the staff members from all the other departments that had a slowdown. As you have probably heard and found out, like the petroleum industry was slowed down to a crawl because there were no tanks to fill if there's no miles to drive. So we've been able to utilize those employees and bring them into the departments that were in desperate need of extra help as well. So I'm happy to report that to date we had nobody on a forced layoff whatsoever. So we were able to make it through without negatively affecting our staff financially.
That's amazing. So have sales continued to be higher than normal? My understanding is that because people are eating at home more, that there are actually more groceries being bought. And so I guess specific to your grocery store.
Yeah, you'd be right there. Certainly they're not as high as they were in the first couple of weeks, but they are definitely still higher than what they were. They're manageable. We've been able to work our way through that. They're definitely higher, and I think you're right. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what's happening. I know I have school-age kids, and they love to cook, so we're eating probably better than what we have in a long time at home because they do have the time away from school, but also the restaurants have been closed, and today is the second day that they can open to 50% capacity in Manitoba. So we will see how that affects and if it truly was due to the restaurant industry being closed.
So how are all your books balancing then when you have so many different kinds of products that you sell in different outlets? How's it all working out? Or is that something that you're needing to worry about right now? I'm thinking particularly with petroleum sales down.
Right. Yeah, we're still working that out, I guess. It's still fresh. We've definitely, with the petroleum, not only did the sales plummet, but the cost also, as you are well aware, if you filled your tank in the last while, or I guess a month ago, you paid, significantly less than you did 3 months ago. So it definitely affected us in many different facets in many different areas. So we continue to work towards how that will balance, and we're getting close to finding that out as things return to normal. But as of yet, the indication would be that although it's not a wash, it's not going to be detrimental.
Mm-hmm. So now that we're kind of settled into this new normal, as people call it, are there aspects of how you run these various cooperative businesses that you think will be permanently changed as a result of what everyone's been through with this pandemic?
Yeah, I think we've learned, you alluded to, the amount of meetings and meetings like this one on Zoom. I think we'll adopt that for some of the meetings, mostly for the information meetings. We're still a relationship company with our customers as well as our staff. So there is no true replacement for 100% of your in-person meetings, and we're happy and excited to see that we can start doing some of those again. But having the electronic version and the ability to do that without a lot of driving involved will definitely stick. It was available beforehand, but we've all become a lot more comfortable with it now. I can also see in the retail world that the use of hand sanitizer, maybe some wash stations, in a voluntary position in the future for those that wish to. I think those will probably continue to be available, and as well as just some daily schedules for more thorough, deep cleaning, rather than just cleaning it when it's visually dirty, as much of the retail world did for years. Maybe now we've learned that there's a lot of things that you can't see that could affect people, and moving into the next flu season, I could see a lot of that stuff taking place. For us, we've always done a delivery service out of our food stores. We dropped the rate to $0. So, we were offering free delivery. So we would shop your groceries and deliver them to your house for free. And one thing that we changed for a lot of the people that were in isolation or in quarantine is we provided a personal shopping experience with them. So they would call and they would actually be able to talk to the person that's doing the shopping for them in the store, which during this time, because of the shortages and the supply trouble that we have experienced, it prevented a lot of disappointment when somebody would get their grocery order to their house and they would ask why a certain product was missing, or they had a different size than what they requested. because there were a lot of things that were out. So it definitely helped with the customer relationship there as well. And I think we've learned a lot about the agility of our management team as well as our staff in how to work through a pandemic, how to work through when something gets dropped on your lap that, maybe wasn't completely unforeseen, but it certainly took us by surprise to the extent that it would change our lives on a day-to-day basis, both at home and at work. So the all hands on deck approach and what we're truly capable of, I think will definitely stick around for a while.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get back to the grocery ordering, and as the primary shopper in my house, I shop at Co-op as well, but I have been acutely aware that Co-op does not offer online grocery shopping, or hasn't. And I've wondered about the effects on that in terms of, also nearby, I have a superstore. There's a Walmart that I never go to that isn't terribly far away from where I live. But all these places you can order online and then go pick up or have things delivered. And the co-ops have seemed to be, I've wondered about why Co-op hasn't embraced this, if it's a technology thing, the amount of capital that would be required, or if it's the fact that not all the co-ops are cookie cutters of each other the way the superstores might be. So supply is different at different stores. I'm just wondering about that, and if the cooperative retailing system is thinking about how to move online, if there's a need there, or if you're finding other solutions.
Yeah, so you kind of answered it and asked it at the same time, so that's all right.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, because we're part of our local community, we do stock things differently than what other co-op stores do. Now that's not an excuse. It's not really a reason, but it certainly is a challenge when it comes to the technology. So, like you mentioned, we're not a cookie cutter of each other. But you'll be happy to know that they are working on it, and they do have some test sites that currently are, and I believe there is one in Saskatoon. Not sure if that's close to you, and I could be wrong there as well, but there are some stores. I know there is one in Winnipeg that has begun the click and collect model as far as picking up groceries, etc. So we're definitely going down that path. One thing that we noticed, and we got a lot of praise or a thank you for, is locally here, there was a lot of people that would shop at some competitors and they would have to wait up to 10 to 15 days before they could pick up their groceries, where we were doing, well over, 100, 150 orders a day, and we were delivering them same day. So there was a lot of satisfaction there. Maybe not the same volume as some of the competitors were doing, but the service level was definitely higher. And we are looking forward to doing the click and collect, but yeah, we certainly don't follow. I shouldn't say we don't follow, but because there's a lot of different areas in Western Canada and different ethnic groups and whatnot, and the competitors operate in those as well. But we try to support as much local as we can. So if there is a locally produced food product, we love to sell it in our store so that we can see that economic growth right here in our own backyards by supporting other food manufacturers and providing a retail outlet for them that they couldn't do themselves.
Well, that is the co-op advantage, I think, but I guess it poses significant challenges when it comes to things like click and collect.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
What kind of long-term concerns do you have for your organization, and do you think that, from your understanding of what's going on across Canada, across Western Canada in the CRS, what are your concerns relative to the concerns of other co-ops across Western Canada, and what are you thinking in terms of the future now?
Right. When it comes to concerns, I don't know about the other co-ops. I shouldn't speak for them, but obviously we do talk fairly regularly. But I mean, some of the immediate risks would obviously be if somebody were to contract COVID within one of our locations, and how that would affect it. Long term, people seem to have gotten used to the social distancing. which has become a word that we didn't even know it really exists. We never put those words together till recently, but the lack of relationship, and it's become more of a transactional society, which I guess part of our fear would be that that would stay. And we really want to know our customers, and we want to interact with them so that we know what they want, we know what they need, and we can provide that for them. So that would be some of the concerns moving forward, that we would still be able to interact directly. And the click and collect model is great. There's not a whole lot of interaction, and there's a lot of whether it's a generational thing, or maybe it's just the busyness of everybody's life, but that we wouldn't lose the personal relationship or the personal interaction with our members and with our customers.
So when is Winkler Co-op's AGM, and are you thinking about how to do that?
We're certainly thinking about how to do that. It should have been in April.
Okay.
We do have some time. Some co-ops have gone to a virtual AGM. We do have some challenge. We like to have that interaction. We like to have people physically there and to communicate with them. And many of our members, especially those that are closer to the foundation of when we became a co-op, when they don't have the ability to ask a question, or the ability even to log in on their device if they have one, or if they don't have one, we're trying to hold off until we possibly can have one live, but knowing that we may have to make a change of plans for this year. But we'd like to include all those that we possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pandemic, I think, has really brought to light the inequalities in terms of access to technology that makes things like working from home or attending meetings from home possible, or being schooled remotely even. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I know even for myself, I had to go out and buy an additional computer because my kids are at home and they need it, and we don't have enough internet for it. So I do some evening meetings from the office, and it's definitely been a challenge, but it's revealed a few opportunities that we have.
Yeah, and so what are your hopes for your co-op coming out of this? Whenever that is, we don't know yet when this is.
Yeah, that's a good comment. We don't know exactly when we are going to be back to the real normal instead of maybe the new normal, as you mentioned before. But the hope is that we can continue on with the loyalty and the satisfaction that we're able to give our members during this time. That we could use that as a stepping stone, and that we could strengthen our relationship and strengthen the I guess the loyalty that our members have with us, and that we can continue to provide them what they need when they need it, regardless of the situation. So that would be the number one hope right now.
And so just to conclude with this idea of the loyalty, is this something you're finding really particular to the co-op and not just to any businesses in your community, or and how, if you can describe a little bit why you think that loyalty is there for you?
Yeah, so from what I'm seeing is the locally owned businesses are having a lot of success right now because people do want to support them. There's a little more desire to support the people that you can relate directly to the ownership of that business. So we're definitely seeing some of that. A big part of the loyalty here is the amount that we give back to the community each year. So we share our profits with the community. We make a lot of donations to different charitable organizations and other organizations in our community doing a lot of good work. Many of which have had to cancel their fundraising events during this COVID situation. So we've done things like online auctions of donated products, etc., to assist them and to try to encourage people to support them. And we're doing our best not to cut back any of the support that we would normally do as well. So that loyalty, because when you're a co-op member, you're not just a member, you're actually an owner. So you become an owner of the business, which which results in a lot of loyalty because the profits go back to the owners, which are the 18,000 members of ours.
Excellent. So is there anything else you wanted to add? Yeah.
No, not really. I guess just thanks for the opportunity to speak to you and to have that conversation. I think it's great what you're doing.
Well, it was my pleasure, Evan. It was great to have a chance to talk to you. So I want to thank you, Evan Toews from the Winkler Co-op in Southern Manitoba. And I wish you and all of your family and all of your employees all the best in your whole community.
Thanks, and I wish you the best as well.
Thank you.